the calm before the storm winds low, and I tend the light. Welcome, everyone. My name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and it's been a while. It's been a while since I've been here, and happy Halloween. That's when this is dropping. So, as you can tell, I am a certain character from The Lighthouse, and I am not as disheveled. I've tried to make myself as disheveled as possible for all the Halloween-related things, and also for this video. But I know it's been a while, and I'm sure you're like, what? He looks so silly with this whole get-up on. It's true, I do, but it's also amazing, because I got this hat from Ireland. Super excited, just to dress up like one of my favorite characters from the last few years in movies. Anyway, today's Halloween, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are also dressed up in your various garbs. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the different movies that I've been watching for the month of October. Like I said, it's been a while, so if you're not new here, well, you understand I've been gone for a second, and so it's going to be a little strange me getting back on the channel, but my time has been kind of cut down a little bit, and I'm going to be trying my best to returning to form a little bit more, probably once a week. I just have a lot of different things going on anymore. So with that being said, let's just kind of segue to what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm sure you saw in the thumbnail of the video, we're going to be talking about horror films. It's been October, it's been a spooky month. There's a lot of really great things going on. So I want to talk about 31 things that I've been watching for the month. I watched some of this stuff in the tail end of October just to prep myself, and I just haven't had the time to actually watch a movie every day. But there's going to be some really fun things in here. There's some rewatches in here, some first-time watches. But before we jump into that, I want to ask you, what have you been watching for the month of October? I would love to know in the comment section down below. Anyway, let's go tend the light, shall we? All right, I don't know what to do with this pipe. I'm just going to hold it in my hand as I'm like talking about these things, you know. So anyway, the first movie I want to talk about is Saint Maud. So this movie is directed by Rose Glass and has... why can I never pronounce her name right? I always try to get it right. Morfydd Clark. So she's actually been as Gladriel in the new Rings of Power show. But I love Saint Maud, and I actually just recently talked about this film on a video with my friend Sam, film blogger Sam, Chris Moen, and Boutique Blu-rays with Elliot Cohen. We all just talked about some Criterion stuff, and this was one of the horror movies I wanted to kind of showcase as something I would love to see the Criterion kind of pick up, because it's a debut film from Rose Glass, but also it's a really great horror film, and it does take some turns that I did not expect it to, and I really, really enjoy it. It's one of those A24 slow burn type films, which is what you expect from A24, hence, this. But Saint Maud is a really great film, and I think that there's going to be really great things coming from both Rose Clark and also from Rose Glass and Morfydd Clark in the future. Wow, you can tell I haven't been here in a bit. So first movie we'll talk about is Saint Maud. Have you seen it? Let me know in the comment section down below. All right, so for the next film, I want to talk about a fantastic film, and I would say 3 more days till Halloween, 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 but it's actually today, when I'm putting this up at least. And Halloween 3 is one of my favorite Halloween films. It's probably subjectively my favorite one. Objectively, I would probably say the first movie is probably the best. But anywho, so Halloween 3 has nothing to do with Michael Myers. Not really. I mean, he's kind of in the background in a shot. But if you've not seen this movie, it's crazy. In fact, I actually just recently talked about this movie and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in a double feature in the Schlock and Awe podcast. I'll make a link down in the description down below. My good friend Lindsay and I had a good conversation about both of those films, and I love her podcast. If you don't listen to her podcast, give it a chance, especially if you love horror films. She likes to do those all the time and do double features and talk about all those different fun little tricks and treats, right? Which is exactly what we did with our 2 films, with Halloween and Willy Wonka. And both of these films have so much in common, which is just nuts. So I watched that, and I watched Willy Wonka again, both on 4K. This is a really stellar release from Scream Factory on 4K. Still haven't picked up the new Halloweens yet, but if you've not seen this one, it's very different from all the other Halloween films, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. But if you haven't, definitely do yourself a favor and check this one out, because it's quite insane. Evil corporations, things going weirdly in town, some masks that I have off camera that I had last Halloween. Anyway, Halloween 3, check it out if you've not seen it. All right, so next I want to talk about a box set right here, the Norman J. Warren box set right here, the Bloody Terror box set. I've actually only watched, I'm going to try to cover this, I've only watched a little bit of Satan's Slave. I've only seen this movie so far. I have not seen the other films in here, but Satan's Slave is very, very interesting. It's a lot like a horror gothic film, but like on a lower budget, with a lot more nudity. So it's, think of an Amicus slash horror Hammer film, but with a less budget and obviously a little bit more American too. But anyway, very fun movie nonetheless, even though it's mostly just nudity going on and some family debauchery. So Satan's Slave and this Bloody Terror box set, I'm excited to check out more of this stuff. But yeah, this is definitely the schlock part of of the films that I've watched so far. But yeah, if you've not seen this, I definitely recommend checking out this possibility. It might be one of the weakest films that I've talked about, but it's still fun nonetheless. All right, next we're going to move on to another film that I've seen in the past, and this one is a really great classic that I was able to talk to with my good friend Davy, and on his channel, and I'm going to put that link down in the description down below as well. Davy's Cinema Picks and Music Picks and Cinema Flicks. I can never say your name, and you know I love doing that. Anyway, Blood on Satan's Claw, really fantastic folk horror film. It's one of the OG threes, right? There's The Wicker Man, there's this, and there's also, wow, what am I blanking? Witchfinder General, geez, come on now. It's like I haven't talked in front of a camera in a second. But Blood on Satan's Claw is a really fantastic film. Linda Hayden does a phenomenal job on here. She's kind of the main focus here as like the leader child who is just mixed up some weird things. It's a really strange and weird town that's dealing with some weird things going bump in the night, some really crazy kid ritual stuff, all the fun things you would expect in a folk horror film. This is kind of where a lot of this started, and I love this. But yeah, really fantastic film. This is a really fantastic release too. This is the screen-bound edition, which is the edition that I recommend people get. I mean, because I know the Severin release is not available. So it's got a buku loads of special features, and that video that I did with Davey is fantastic too. So go check out his channel down in the comment section down below. All right, next is a film, an IFC film. This is from Scream Factory actually, and is a first-time watch. Another type of folk horror film, and that is The Wind, Demons of the Prairie, which I think is the subtitle of it. I don't think it initially had that. I think it was just called The Wind. Regardless, it is a Western film set on the frontier of this woman and man who more or less live on the prairie, and it is just, you know, wind, as the name suggests. A lot of things go bump at night. Some really strange happenings happen. You just hear things constantly. You're really focusing on our main protagonist, the woman in here, who just believes that there's crazy demonic stuff going on around her, and it's really fun watch. I really enjoyed this film. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, and I definitely recommend it. It's definitely on the cheaper side, so if you ever do get a chance to see it, check out The Wind. I'd recommend it. It's a fun folk horror film, and it's a good little Western too, so check it out. And next is a 4K from Arrow Video, and it is a really fantastic film. I've seen it about 5 or 6 times. I finally watched it on 4K. I'm talking about An American Werewolf in London. You know, this film by John Landis, this really great film. Really great 4K. Really happy to have it. I didn't have the box set from the original Blu-ray run, so I lucked out. But this movie looks stunning on 4K. It's just as funny as ever, just as scary as ever. The practical effects look amazing. If you've not seen this movie, this is like, out of all the movies I've talked about so far, this is like the one to watch. Right, it's a classic for a reason. It is a phenomenal film, and I'm really glad that Arrow put the treatment out on this one. So I had a really good time watching this one, and I watched it with some good buddies. So that was a really fun night. So American Werewolf in London, go check it out if you've not seen it. Come on. All right, so next we're going to talk about a Criterion directed by David Cronenberg, and this is Scanners, one that's not actually talked about as much as a lot of those other films, but this is an explosive film, if you know what I mean. And yeah, this is a film from 1981. It's one of the earlier-ish films from Cronenberg. I know there's a few films before it, but it's a really great film. And it would kind of just, you know, suggest the type of body horror that David Cronenberg would do later on in his films as well. But I just really love this thing. It's about scanners who can really kind of psychically attack people, and it's just a really weird and strange premise that just keeps going all over the place, and I kind of love it, and that's what makes it so much fun. And it's really great, and it's got a really great cast as well. So highly check out this one that's underrated. And since November is right around the corner, pick this up on the Criterion sale. It's a good one. Definitely check it out. All right, speaking of Criterion, we're going to continuing on with Criterion to 1969's The Cremator. Now, recently I just talked a little bit about Saint Maud in that video I did with Sam, Chris, and Elliot, and we also talked about this. I brought this up as my recommendation for the film to watch for the month of October. This is a very terrifying and realistic movie. The Cremator is a Czech New Wave film from 1969. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the names. I'm very bad at it. But it is about this man who is a cremator and in his descent into madness as he is kind of distinguishing reality from fiction. But a lot of the fiction and reality are blending in together to become real things, very real things, and very terrifying things. This is after the Nazi, actually right before the Nazis take over in the Czech Republic, where this is. And so it's a very scary thing. But anyway, really great film, really great wild editing, funny in weird ways, but also really scary, really scary. Cremator, check it out, especially since November is right around the corner. All right, next I'm going to talk about a really goofy movie. This is from Vestron Video, so it's relatively cheap and a lot of fun. And it is The Wraith, and this has Charlie Sheen, Sherilyn Fenn, Randy Quaid, and Nick Cassavetes on it. It also has music from Billy Idol, Robert Palmer, Motley Crue, Ozzy Osbourne. It's a teen hangout movie about a killer, like, space alien who, like, races, and it's very strange. It's all over the place. There's some really crazy lines in it, and a lot of it doesn't make any sense. So you kind of just you don't follow the main character as much as you expect it to, and the main character being Charlie Sheen. You kind of follow the bad guys a lot and the kids around it. But this weird little spot on the side of the road in, I think, Arizona probably. And it's a lot of fun though. And definitely for one of those like schlocky nights, if you want to watch something like that. The Wraith is really fun. All right, next we're going to talk about Schlock again, kind of mid-level. It's Schlock and it's also really good at the same time. But this is a film that Scream Factory put out on 4K, and I finally watched it for the first time, and I'm talking about Life Force. I watched this with a friend, so it's from, the legendary Tobe Hooper, and yeah, it's just a really great film about a space alien life form that is a vampire and starts slowly taking over this entire town and like the whole world, and it just gets crazier and crazier. I love the opening shot of this film. That is like probably the most memorable part of it, besides the fact that there's just a naked woman throughout the entire film, just constantly. But yeah, stay away from her, even though she's enticing, I guess. So anyway, the Life Force is really fun. It's a fun film that I didn't expect to love it as much. It's definitely a horror sci-fi film, and is a really crazy twist and take on a vampire film, and I love it. It's batshit crazy, and I highly recommend it. All right, so next we're going to talk about a Kino Lorber film. This is a film from all the way back to 1932, right after Dracula came out. Bela Lugosi was in White Zombie, and this is actually one of the first zombie films, credited as one of the first zombie films. I'm sure there were a few before it, but regardless, they really were explicit about the zombie thing about this, and a mad scientist. It's a really great release, and I really liked that Kino was able to put this out. I got it a few sales ago from Kino Lorber, and so it's definitely a fun one. It's really interesting, kind of mixing that Haitian, kind of zombie with Bela Lugosi and that gothic horror thing that Universal would tap into a little bit later. I mean, they had a couple films before this, but anyway, it's a fun film. It's really short too, 67 minutes. So if you want to check out a really cool classic, White Zombie is a fun one, and I would suggest it. But the acting, not so great. Yeah, that's the only thing I would say about that. All right, next I want to talk about one of the best 4Ks that exists, in my opinion, and it's a film I've seen many times now, and I finally watched this on the 4K, actually. This is from Synapse Films. I'm talking about Suspiria. Wow, this movie is gorgeous and also just fantastic. It's got an iconic score by Goblin, and it's got iconic scenes in it, and it's really bad shit all the directions it goes, and I just love the architecture, the color, just the whole vibe of the film is just fantastic. And so I would highly recommend you checking out, if you want to buy any 4K, American Werewolf in London, Suspiria, these are the films I would recommend checking out and buying and getting. So Suspiria, incredible film, and looks even better on 4K with a really great amount of really great releases, in addition with it. So a lot of cool things. So Suspiria, check it out. All right, so next we're going to continue down the folk horror route, but this time we're going to talk about a folk horror film from IFC Midnight again, and this is Pyewacket. And Pyewacket is a really cool kind of film. It's a folk horror film that kind of just talks about trauma of this girl and her mother. Her mother is kind of not the greatest mother, and they kind of move outside of the area that they were living in and kind of uproots her entire life, as her friends are just outcasts, but also that's all she really has, because she just misses her dad and whatnot. And regardless, anyway, they live out in the woods now, and to get back at her, she conjures a Pyewacket, and this Pyewacket starts tearing at everyone around her and herself as well, and her mom. And so that's what she summoned. But there's also a really cool thing involved with this. I didn't know this, but Carrick Ongren is in this film, and that is a band that I like. They're from the Netherlands, and it's a Dutch band. But yeah, the music's in it, and I'm like, what? I didn't expect that. I didn't expect black metal to be in here, but that's really cool. So that's a little nod to them, and a nod to black metal and horror. Love it. Can't have enough of it. All right, so next we're going to talk about the debut film of Francis Ford Coppola, and that is Dementia 13, another Vestron video. And wow, this is really short. It's only 69 minutes. Nice. And but it's a really great mystery. It kind of reminds me of a Hitchcock meets a slasher. It's this weird thing going on. I obviously know that, this came out, 1963. So Psycho had come out just, a few years before that. And so it had probably had a big influence on a lot of that stuff. But it's just really cool to see Francis Ford Coppola in a really different way that we expect him from. And it doesn't feel like it's from him in a weird way, but there's a lot of really cool shots in here. I really enjoyed this film. It's a really light watch, and it's my favorite Vestron video I've seen so far is Dementia 13, so I definitely recommend checking this one out if you've not seen it. All right, next we're going to talk about a big box set from Arrow Video. I finally was able to watch all three of these movies. I hadn't seen any of them beforehand, but it's Hellraiser, and I actually chose to do this without even knowing that there was a new Hellraiser coming out on Hulu. Had no idea. I just decided, I want to watch Hellraiser, and that's what I did. And anyway, still haven't seen the Hulu, but I want to talk about the other three films. First, Hellraiser, absolutely incredible. I was scared several times. Kind of reminded me of parts of The Fly, with some body horror related things. But also the Cenobites are just terrifying in the first film. There's just some really iconic lines, and just the concept of how this man's trying to come back to life and slip through the cracks from the Cenobites. I love it. And what a crazy bit of family that's involved with the first film. Anyway, great film. Highly recommend checking out the first Hellraiser. Second Hellraiser, also fun. I actually quite enjoyed that one. It gets a little bit more wacky, kind of ups the stakes a little bit more. There's a lot more hell-related things because they go into that dimension, but it's still fun. And then the third one is pretty good. It's decent. I would say decent. It's kind of forgettable, though. I don't really have much to say on it. But I am excited to watch more Hellraiser films. I heard that there's the fourth Hellraiser is actually pretty decent. And then I've also heard that the new Hellraiser from several people, they quite enjoy it, but there's other people who don't. But anyway, I'll watch it eventually. Definitely recommend checking out this box set from Arrow. It's great. Really love it. And I'm just surprised I haven't been on the Hellraiser train for this long, right? Here we are. All right, next we're going to talk about a 4K, and this is just a studio release, but I have not seen this before. In fact, I remember my parents talking about this when I was a kid, talking about this is one of the scariest movies that they've seen, and I'm talking about Pet Sematary. Now, I can understand why they said that now, because obviously I was a child when this movie, I was a child when my parents talked about this movie, right? And this movie is all about a child getting killed which, spoilers if you've not seen Pet Sematary, and it's a very scary moment. But anyway, regardless of that, it's a really great Stephen King adaptation, and I highly recommend checking this one out. It's a great 4K, it looks great, but damn, that old man, he pretty much just ruined their entire existence here. Man, why did they do that? You know, why did they have that neighbor just decide to, you know, show them where that Pet Sematary was? If you're not seeing this movie, definitely check this one out. Don't really watch the new one. Not so good. All right, moving right along is one classic film that I'm so happy that I finally have in my possession. I've had it for actually half a year, or maybe even longer, but I finally was able to watch it on 4K, and that is George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Wow, incredible film, and I love it. I think I like Night of the Living Dead more than Dawn of the Dead, but I know why people like this one more, or equally. But this is a really great film. It's set in the mall, very much of its time, and about a group of people who really just barely escaped and getting things together and trying to survive. And there's a lot of really cool moments in here. There's terrifying moments in here, especially from the time when this came out. You just see flesh chunks just flying all over the place. I love it. And this really set up a lot of other zombie films in the future, of course, right? I've seen the Zack Snyder version of Dawn of the Dead ever since I was a kid, and that scared the shit out of me. So I can't imagine watching this back in the day and just being scared shitless to that. But Second Sight, they've done a fantastic release of this. Really love all of this. I was able to watch just the theatrical cut. I know that there's the Argento and the extended. I was only able to watch the first. I know there's differences here. I've heard the Argento cut takes out some of the goofiness, and I've heard that's the one to watch. But anyway, I'll check it out eventually. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead, so happy to have it. So happy to finally have seen it too for the first time. It's an incredible ride, and I highly recommend it. If you can get your hands on it, definitely do so, but it might be a hard thing to find in the States. All right, next we're going to talk about a goofy movie. Not the Goofy movie. It is a goofy movie with Michael J. Fox called The Frighteners. Peter Jackson's The Frighteners. Wow. It took me a long time to watch this finally, but I was able to get a hold of it and finally watch it. I know this is coming out on 4K, I believe, which once again, just like the Hellraiser thing, had no clue. I just wanted to buy it and watch this movie, and I did. And I had a really fun time. And it's about this guy who can see ghosts because he was in a near-death accident as he was younger, or something happened. You know, I don't want to give too much away if you've not seen it, although I'm probably the only one who hasn't seen it. But anyway, regardless, he sees ghosts. Some of them help him out in his kind of kooky way to get money from people and try to rob them. But he's also like exorcising, you know, ghosts and whatnot until he gets to a really bad ghost and some killers. And there's a lot of really fun moments in this movie. This is like one of the most fun movies on this list that I've talked about. And like this, you would all have a good time. You can watch this with your family. Highly recommend The Frighteners. Crazy to think that he went from this to Fellowship of the Ring. Anyway, all right, so next we're going to talk about a lot of wolf movies, a lot of werewolf movies. And the first one we're going to talk about is Wolf with Michelle Pfeiffer and Jack Nicholson. A Mike Nichols film, of course, which is really crazy to think that Mike Nichols put this out, of all people. This is a very strange and very 90s film. This is got a lot of really great people in it besides them, of course. James Spader is a main character in it. Richard Jenkins is great in it, and so is Kate Nelligan. And Christopher Plummer is also in it. What a weird movie. Jack Nicholson is coming home late, gets bit by a wolf, starts becoming a werewolf. It's almost like the Wolfman, but like a 90s version of the Wolfman, but also like in an office. There's a lot of office politics going on in this one. It's a weird movie. And this is a really great release from Indicator. I was able to pick it up in the last flash sale that they had. I'm super excited to have this now in my possession. And what a weird werewolf movie, but I love it. I kind of love it, you know? All right, next I'm going to talk about probably my favorite werewolf movie I saw this month so far, besides American Werewolf in London. That's Silver Bullet. Oh my God, another Stephen King movie that I hadn't seen before. And man, I just love this. This is the version from Umbrella right here. I actually have this, and I have the Scream Factory edition. I think I might just get rid of the Scream Factory edition, unless somebody has seen both and wants to let me know which one's better. Regardless, Silver Bullet, oh my God, what a fun movie. This kind of, weirdly enough, reminds me of like Fright Night the most. It's like this kid who and his friends trying to take down this evil entity in the best way possible, but in a weird way, because like the protagonist or the antagonist, just this handsome person that you didn't expect to be that, and that's kind of where my comparisons come up. But Stephen King's Silver Bullet, really good movie, kind of scary, and also like this werewolf kills a lot of people before it's even like identified or taken down. So that might have given some things away, but I highly recommend this movie. It's really fun. All right, next we're going to talk about a film from Indicator, The Beast Must Die. This is an Amicus film. This actually has some weird things about it. There's William Castle moments in it. There are some interesting kind of like Clue, the great, like the most dangerous game type film. Honestly, it's this weird setup to where at the very beginning of the film, there's this really crazy montage of this really rich man who is like getting hunted, like he's getting people to hunt him to kind of just track down this, like he's trying to use this technology to see how well it's going to be used for later on when he's got some individuals that he believes one of them is a werewolf and he wants to murder them. It's a really crazy premise, but anyway, Peter Cushing's in it. Calvin Lockhart is the millionaire kind of madman who is putting this all together. But there's a werewolf involved, and but it's a really fun one, an Amicus release. Yeah, definitely recommend checking this one out if you get the chance to check it out. It's one of the weirder ones and definitely feels very 70s. It's even got a really crazy soundtrack, a jazz soundtrack of all things. It's a weird movie. And then the last werewolf movie I think I'll talk about here is The Hound of the Baskervilles. This is an Arrow video film from a Hammer film. So we just talked about Amicus. Let's talk about Hammer as well. This is not necessarily a werewolf movie, but it's like a hound, right? It is a Sherlock Holmes movie. And good thing I have, this right here. But Peter Cushing, once again, another Peter Cushing film. Andre Morell and Christopher Lee. This is like an all-star cast, like just absolutely all-star cast. Really, this is actually one of my favorite Hammer films that I've seen. It kind of crosses between the detective film and then also a horror film. It's a nice little bit of mix of both, because it is that old Sherlock Holmes story, the Hound of the Baskervilles, trying to figure out like why is there this hellhound, in the moor, taking down this family, this cursed family, and he's just trying to get to the bottom of it. So really great release, and also really fun to jump into Hammer again. So I'm going to do that more often in the future. So now we're moving back to Arrow, and now we're going to talk about Demons. Oh my God, what a fun film right here. This is a really great 4K release from Arrow Video right here. Really love this movie. It is Argento and Bava together, kind of putting this together in a movie theater of all things, which is just even crazier because the movie theater is where a lot of us love being, right? And seeing this crazy body horror, like zombie demon movie, I don't know how to describe it. I'm sure somebody else has described it better, but this is just such a fun film. And it's got a great soundtrack. It's got great effects, and it's just one of the more fun films on this list that I've talked about. And I highly recommend checking out Demons. If you've not seen this, you're going to get some things stuck in your head once you watch this movie. All right, next is a film from Scream Factory. Really fun little slasher film, directed by Amy Jones, actually, and produced by her. It is the Slumber Party Massacre. I can't talk. A lot of girls hanging out together. This is crazy guy who has escaped from a mental institution, comes around and starts killing all of them. That's the easy premise of that, but there's a lot of really funny spoofs kind of the slasher genre, and that's kind of what Amy was trying to do with this. A lot of nudity involved as well. It's one of the schlockier films on this list that I've talked about, but it's a fun one nonetheless. The driller killer, crazy guy. How does he keep getting back up? Nobody will know. Also, just have some fun with that one. All right, the last film I'm going to talk about before we jump into some episodes of some things I want to talk about is The Strangers. This is a Second Sight release, and man, what a great release from Second Sight. I believe this is actually still available from them, but it is a Region B release, but incredible film from the mid-2000s that I hadn't seen in a long time, actually probably since it came out. And wow, what a scary premise. And I watched this home alone at night one night, and yeah, didn't settle well with me. But a lot of really great jump scares. Just like, why are these people doing it? It's because they were home. But yeah, check out The Strangers if you've not seen this movie. It's incredible. And the last thing I want to talk about before we jump into my last movie is there is the Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which is a really great release on Netflix. There are like anthology episodes with him, Del Toro, coming and at the very beginning of the episode kind of just showcasing what he's going to be talking about, this Cabinet of Curiosities. And it's just a really fun show. And I've only seen 3 episodes so far, Lot 36, Graveyard Rats, and The Autopsy. And all of them have been really great. I really enjoyed them. Lot 36 gave me a little bit of a chill. But there's some really great cast and it's about this person who sells off lots, and some demonic stuff starts happening. If you've not seen it, I won't get too much into it. And then Graveyard Rats, kind of just as it suggests, there's a lot of rats. It's set in like the 1900s, so it's the early 1900s, and this man who is more or less just a grave robber, grave digger. Anyway, he's trying to loot graves and trying to get his debt paid. And there's some really crazy twists and turns alongside some rats. And then The Autopsy, which is probably my favorite so far. I don't want to get into that one. That one like opens up, if you will, with an autopsy. It doesn't open up with that, but I mean like the movie, the video. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just going on a rant. It's late in the video. The last movie I'm going to talk about is the one that I'm doing right now. The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse. Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson. I've seen this movie before. Haven't seen it recently, so I'm going to be watching this tonight on Halloween. And this is what I'm going to be doing, since I am, this man right here, trying to be him as best as possible. Be as crazy as possible here. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to know what you've been watching for the month of October, and also stay tuned for some more videos in the future. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to do this like once a week maybe, and kind of just reallocate myself back to the channel and get back into it. So anyway, I hope everyone's having a good day, and enjoys Halloween. And until next time, I'm not jonesing around.